Mining Weekly Online is interviewing the Executive Director of South Africa's Free Market Foundation on the issue of demands that South Africa's mining industry and other business be nationalised. Can the South African government get more from nationalised mines than from taxing mines?
The government already gets 50% of the profits in direct and indirect taxes from the mining activity, which is fantastic. It couldn't be in a better position. It's effectively a 50% shareholder in all the mining companies already, and it hasn't had to invest 1 cent for that 50%. And better still, it's at no risk. It shares only in profits, never losses. So it couldn't be in a better position if it, in its wildest and most exotic fantasies. And if you nationalize, not only do you stop getting that 50% of very substantial profits from your minerals, the best possible investment you could imagine, but the world's experience tells you start making losses and you pay in subsidies. Now, we don't have to look very far to understand why. Look at all the other state-owned enterprises, all the parastatals, they all run at losses. So SA Airways, SABC, Sasol used to run at a loss and gobble up subsidies. It now generates super profits, and they even think of introducing the super profits tax because Sasol has been privatized, now does so well, and instead of consuming the government's wealth, it contributes to the government's wealth. So it's quite the opposite. If you want more revenue out of the mines, you can't get more than they're already getting. It's at a maximum. If you start raising the revenues any further, you just simply won't have anyone mining your minerals. They won't bother to do so. So we have by far the best formula at the moment, which the government gets money instead of having to subsidize the way it subsidizes all other parastatals, the railways, the airways, the SABC, and so on and so forth. So the government is a disastrous owner of enterprises, and it will be as disastrous with the mines as it is with policing and education and healthcare. Everything done by the state is a shambles and consumes wealth rather than produces wealth. As I like to put it, when things are in the hands of the state, they're in a hell of a state.
But we do have some time bombs. You acknowledge that. We have a 51% of youth between 18 and 25 unemployed. I mean, that is an unsustainable situation. What is your answer? What would you do now if you were in charge?
Yes, this isn't rocket science. How to solve the problem is not rocket science. It's very simple. You look around the world and you say, what have the countries who have solved the problem done? The countries that are experiencing high growth, rising job creation, rising levels of savings and investment, especially direct foreign investment. And what have they done? Well, we don't have to look much further than our new BRIC partners, Brazil, Russia, India and China. Particularly Brazil, India and China, which are fabulous success stories. And what they did is quite simple and straightforward, is they freed up their economies, they liberalized. And they are moving rapidly towards less nationalization. They are doing the opposite. They are privatizing, liberalizing and cutting taxes. And by doing that, they are creating jobs and prosperity for all. And everything else is getting better. Environmental conditions, crime rates, child molestation rates, life expectancy, healthcare, everything is better in freer economies. And that is why most African economies, most Asian economies, and most South American economies are now successfully going in the opposite of nationalization, and it's working. So we just have to emulate what works and avoid what fails.
And some people say that privatization will be the eventual outcome of nationalization. What is your view on that?
Well, the world's experience is quite clear-cut. Firstly, nationalization has 100% failure. There are no successes at all. Nationalization leads to privatization. It's usually about a decade. So countries like Zambia and Chile and very many other countries around the world nationalize, and 10 or 20 years later they privatize again. And the companies that they confiscate from or buy out from, normally buying, by the way, allocating vast amounts of public wealth to the process that should have gone to welfare and housing and education and healthcare and so on, they usually then sell back to the original mining companies at a fraction of the price at which they bought them out in the first place. So the fact is, nationalization results in privatization after it's failed.
That was the executive director of the Free Market Foundation, Leon Louw, who believes that the solution to South Africa's problems and the growth spurt can come from economic freedom.